On today's episode of What's Going On with Shipping, we're going to introduce our new series, Shipping 101. Hi, I'm your host, Sal Mercogliano. Welcome to today's episode. So back in March of 2021, I started this YouTube channel, What's Going On with Shipping, when the Ever Given went sideways in the Suez. I'm a former merchant mariner turned academic, and I thought I would help people understand what they saw transpiring. And since then, I've covered a myriad of topics dealing with global shipping to the point that the channel has grown exponentially, much bigger than I ever thought it would. However, one of the frequent questions I get is, can you take a moment and explain this or this element of shipping? So I'm going to start a series, hopefully every week or two, drop a new episode that covers different elements of global shipping. What's containers? What's bulk carriers? What's tankers? Maybe we'll do some thematic ones and topical ones, the Panama Canal, which is in the news now. We'll be looking at different topics, but if there's a topic I haven't mentioned or a topic you really want me to go into, leave it in the comments down below and we will add it to the list. Now, unfortunately, in a brief video, I can't cover everything. So I will always recommend some source material for you. For this episode, the material I recommend, and I'm sourcing mine episode from, is this: Martin Stopford's Maritime Economics, the 3rd edition, 2007. This is a mammoth book, 800 pages, divided into 6 parts, deals with everything from shipping market economics to shipping company economics, to seaborne trade, to merchant fleets, to forecasting and planning. The reason I'm using this book particularly is it's the Bible. Everyone refers to it, and hopefully Martin Stopford is right now writing the 4th edition, because this book is 2007, the 3rd edition. But the other reason I like it is because it's available for download. So I will have it for you. You can download it from archive.org, and you'll be able to take a look at it. It is a great book. I think it's one of the best if you want to understand the shipping industry. So if you're new to the channel, hey, take a moment, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell so be alerted about new videos as they come out. So one of the key introductions that Stopford gives is this 5,000 years of the maritime trading centers. Maritime trade centers actually have a name. They're called Entrepôts. And what he talks about is the West Line, how shipping has shifted throughout history. It starts over in the Mediterranean basin. You have the initial entrepôts with the Phoenicians and the Greeks and the Romans. It moves up into Northern Europe with the Hanseatic League, the Dutch, the English. Then it crosses the Atlantic over to the United States. And now it's across the Pacific over into East Asia. And Stopford takes the time to really break down these different groups and how they develop trade. So, for example, you get the Phoenicians that are establishing the roots of that early trade out of Asia with Africa and over into Europe. You see the development over with the Greeks and the Romans that grow out even further. They're actually getting up into the Black Sea, up into Northern Europe. But most importantly, they're linking over to the trade system that's developing in the Indian Ocean and the Western Pacific and East Asia. You see the growth of a system that connects Northern Europe through the Hanseatic Leagues, the Dutch, the English, and the Silk Road coming across Asia along with that maritime Indian Ocean route. And eventually you see the creation of the global system that the Iberians, the Portuguese, and the Spanish bring into fruition during their age of reconnaissance. And all that links us to the global trade that we live in today. And one of the facets that's really important to understand is that in many ways, global trade follows global population. If you see a graph of global population around the world, global population is fairly stagnant. It's pretty flat for most of global history until you hit about 1800, when we have the first billion people on the planet. Today, we're at 8 billion people. So for the past 225 years, we've gone from having 1 billion people on the planet to 8 billion people on the planet. That means two things. Number one, a lot of people on this planet getting it on. Number two is those people are connected in a way never before seen. Global trade has existed all the way back to pre-Phoenicians, and global trade has just accelerated in a way that we could never envision. I just want to highlight a couple of graphs and charts he has in the book, particularly in the first chapter. This one is entitled World Fleet and Design Innovations. So The maritime sector is always innovating, and we're seeing new ways to move cargo in and around the world. This chart goes from 1860 until 1945, and what you see is the introduction of some of the key type of ship designs through this period. So, for example, in 1852, you have the first bulk carrier. Bulk carriers carry ore and grain around the world. We see the first modern cargo liner. This is a ship that carries breakbulk cargo around the world. We see in 1880 the first reefer cargo, that's refrigerated cargo, moving around the world. 1886, the first tanker moving petroleum products around the world. 1912, the first diesel-powered vessel in around the world. Prior to that, you're dealing with steam, you're dealing with triple reciprocating engines, you're dealing with steam turbines eventually coming into play, but here you have diesel propulsion. 1921, the first oiler coming in, where you're moving both ore and oil around the world. And then in 1945, the last sailing vessel is converted over to motor power, and we see the advent really of true motorized power, although we're seeing a little bit of a rekindling in sail power right now. The other thing this chart shows you is the growth of the world merchant fleet. In 1860, all the world's merchant fleet combined equaled 15 million gross tons. At the end of World War II, we were just under 70 million gross tons. Today, 2023, according to the Review of Maritime Transport, this is the data put together by the UN, the global fleet equates to 1.5 billion gross tons of shipping. 1.5 billion. That is 1,500 million gross tons. Gives you an idea of how far off the chart this is. It wouldn't even register. It'd be quite a few feet up above me right now. The second graph looks at total amount of cargo that is moved around the planet. So in 1950, one of our first really true measurements we have, 1950, we were moving about 500 million tons of cargo around the world. And you see that steady rise there. Now there's some peaks and troughs in there that we see. Post 1970s, there's a little bit of a trough. 1980s, a little bit of a trough, but largely it has increased. This time, 2005, it's sitting at about 7 billion tons of cargo. Go from 2005. Today, we're sitting in 2024 at 12.4 billion tons of cargo. 12.4 billion tons of cargo. We've almost doubled since 2000 to where we are today. That is a record growth. I mean, you have never seen so much goods moving around the planet. And understand that what we're talking about here is not just containers, we're talking about petroleum, we're talking about ore, we're talking about everything you can imagine. We are moving more stuff today at a higher velocity and volume than ever before. And then the last chart I want to highlight for you here is one that deals with the average size of tankers. Now, Stopford did this with tankers because tankers provide you a good gauge on the growth of vessels. You could have done this with freighters, could have done it with cargo ships, could have done it with bulk carriers, could have done it with cruise ships. But tankers are a great one. This one kicks off in 1900, where you have like the sailing tanker Brilliant coming in at about 3.8 thousand gross tons. Fast forward, middle of World War I, you get a ship like the SS Cadillac at 17,000 deadweight tons. Fast forward to World War II, the T2 tanker, which really became the benchmark on how to measure tankers. This was referred to as a handy-sized tanker. You get about 16,500 deadweight tons of cargo. Then in the 1950s and 60s, you start seeing this massive growth in the size of tankers. 1953, you get the Tina Onassis, about 45,000 deadweight tons. 1959, the Universe Apollo, 122,000 deadweight tons. Remember, 1956, we had a brief closure for almost a year of the Suez Canal. 1966, we see the very first vessel go over 200,000 gross tons. 1968, the second closure of the Suez Canal. This one is going to be an 8-year closure of the Suez Canal. You get ships like the Universe Ireland, 326,000 deadweight tons. Until 1980, you hit ships like the Seawise Giant at 550,000 deadweight tons. Now, what's interesting to note here is that you reach such a high level and then you drop off, and now we've kind of plateaued and set up what is basically the average size, which right now is sitting between 80 and 90,000 deadweight tons. You do eventually reach a size that is no longer economical. And I would argue we're doing that right now in the dry bulkers, in the containers, and even in the cruise ship market. What we're seeing is the growth in those areas, and eventually we're going to get too big and come back down, and then we will hit an area, a medium of size. And that seems to be a norm throughout history. One of the other areas that Stopford looks at is the development of shipping companies. Today, shipping companies have become behemoths. They've become entities onto their own. Literally, not since the East India Company has been running around in the 1700s have you seen ocean shipping companies with this much power. And the inflection point that Stopford identifies is really post-World War II. If you look at the period going up to World War II, you basically had three different types of ocean companies out there to handle 5 different types of cargo. So you have bulk cargo. This is cargo that's moved either in pieces, break bulk, bags or pallets, or bulk cargo like grain and ore. You have liquid cargoes. Obviously, oil is one of the biggest that we see out there, but there are others. You have general cargo, you have refrigerated cargo, and then you have passengers. And basically, you could identify prior to World War II ocean carriers that were down into kind of 3 different areas. You had the tramp steamers. Tramp steamers were kind of like the Uber of today. They would go try to find cargo and then take it to where the highest demand and highest money was. You had the cargo liners. Cargo liners operated almost like airlines. They went on scheduled service. They would sail from this port on this day, arrive in this port in this day, and repeat and repeat. They went wherever you wanted to. And then you had the passenger liners that also carry not just passengers, but freight. If you ever want to wonder why the airlines are making you pay for baggage and making you lug your bags into the plane, that's because they're selling the bottom of the plane for freight. The ocean carriers have been doing that forever. They did that all the time. And so you get this myriad of 3 different styles of companies: tramp shipping, cargo liners, and passenger liners, to deal with the 5 types of cargo. Post-1950, you see kind of a change in that. Still have the same types of cargo that are out there, but now what you see is bulk shipping companies. These are companies that deal with a very homogeneous type of cargo. They're focused on maybe oil transportation or liquefied natural gas or grain or ore. Then you have the specialized carriers. Specialized carriers will look at very unique types of cargo, in this case, car carriers. For example, in 1956, you have the development of the container ship, which takes a little while to get sold into everyone. It really takes Vietnam War to get containerization sold. And we're going to look at each of these areas in particularly. And then also air freight, with the development of post-World War II air freight, principally in 1950s, when you get the jet airliner coming in with the Boeing 707 and the McDonnell Douglas DC-8. Now all of a sudden you can start moving cargo by air. And we see a lot of high-value cargo move that way. All that goes to discuss the fact that ocean shipping today is moving a greater volume at a faster velocity than ever before. And it's one of the reasons why when accidents happen and incidents happen, it has such an impact on you. We are so dependent. Go back to 1950 and all we're moving is 500 million tons of cargo around the planet. Today we're moving over 12 billion tons of cargo around the planet. We're doing it on ships that are substantially larger than ever before, and the value and amount of cargo we're moving has just increased exponentially. And that goes to support a world population that has also increased dramatically since the end of World War II. I have a great friend, Lincoln Payne, wrote a fantastic book called Sea and Civilization, which is a maritime history of the world. And in the 20 chapters he does, the last chapter covers the period from 1950 to the present. And one of the things I always say is it's great chronological history. However, the vast majority of people live in that last chapter, and the vast amount of cargo moved on the world's oceans is in that chapter. And so that chapter should be much larger than the others. It's a great book, don't get me wrong. I advocate the book for everyone. I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and I hope you look forward to the series. I'm really excited about doing it. Our next episodes coming up is one on container ships and another on the Panama Canal. I'm going to try to do sectors and also do some thematic topics that are out there. If you're new to the channel, hey, take a moment, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell so you'll be alerted about new videos as they come out. Leave a comment, share it across social media, and if you can, support the page. How do you do that? You can hit the super thanks button down below or head over to Patreon and become a monthly, yearly subscriber. Kicking off a brand new year, 2025. I want to wish everyone out there a happy new year. I would say I hope it's a better year than last year, but if track record goes, it's been tough years. And one of the things that I have found since doing this channel is there is a lot of ship happening out around the world, and I have a feeling I am not going to be short on stories and topics to bring to you. My problem is a one-person show, and so it is always an effort to get stories out, and I do appreciate everybody who supports this page. My Patreons are absolutely fantastic. They do a great job in giving me the ability to put these videos out by giving me the resources, money so I can subscribe to magazines. Shipping journals are really expensive. Technology gets expensive. My time is always at a premium, so it's great to have that. I appreciate everybody who subscribes. We're over 365,000 subscribers. I'm just always amazed by that, and the viewership is just through the roof. The amount of views videos are getting now is just amazing, and so I appreciate it. I appreciate everybody's comments all the time. I do my best to read them all, but sometimes it's very difficult to. So I look forward to this series. Until our next episode, this is Sal signing off.